These big banks want profit centers, and they use government to come in with excuses, healthcare, the environment, whatever it is to loot us, just like the banker bailout was to unfreeze mortgages. The day after they passed it, October 3rd, they said, we're not going to spend it on mortgages, and we're not going to tell you where the money's going. It turned out it was going to George Soros and Al Gore and others. I mean, we have total criminal swindlers stealing everything, and that isn't enough for them. They want even more. Mike Rivero.
Yes, absolutely. Wealth is an addiction. We're dealing with people who are addicted to your money. They can't get enough of it. They get a thrill from having it to spend, buying another yacht, another car, another piece of jewelry. They're addicted to money, and it is time for an intervention.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Rusty.
Please. The 35,000 troops, of course, you know I was in the Gulf War, and 35,000 troops after 8 years is who came up with that number? If you're going to finish something, why not send 200,000? What's the difference?
Well, they
why
don't
not
have
defeat them with overwhelming force?
Well, I mean, I thought I might recognize your voice, but I didn't know you were in the Gulf War, Rusty. But I appreciate your call. Look, there's different Democrats here saying, "What's the point of the war? This is all stupid. This is all a failure." I'm looking for the exact quote one Democrat had. Democrat, war tax proponent, Obey calls expected troop surge a fool's errand. Well, no. I mean, if you believe the fake objectives we're told on the news, bring democracy to Afghanistan, give me a break. But for the real objectives, it's a great success. $500 billion a year in opium, hundreds of billions in oil, hundreds of billions in no-bid weapons contracts for all these fat cat companies. Not a fool's errand. Our troops are there to engage in the looting. They're there to hold the ground so the banks can take over. Let's go ahead and talk to Craig in Washington. Craig, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Just mentioning on this ClimateGate, or at least illegal activities regarding that. In Washington State, an employer has to pay a tax on how their employees get to work. So if they drive a car, they pay X amount.
Oh, yeah, there are already hundreds of carbon taxes. I'm trying to explain to people there's hundreds in place now, thousands going into place.
Yeah, then, people just kind of overlook it or don't pay attention. But, when it quietly started, I mean, no one, pieces it together. That how could this be legal or, making people either come to work a certain way or charge them well, if you carpool, then you pay X amount. If you walk.
And look at what that does. It also tracks how you travel, what you're doing. It gives your employer more work to do. More jobs get lost because of the increased expenses. Mike Rivero, what about the Weather Channel founder talking about filing suit? I mean, we have real evidence now of these big climatologists for the UN trying to persecute other climatologists, get them fired, not let their stuff get published. That right there is a major civil suit, open and shut, caught red-handed. We have criminal charges with the British university, the head university, working with the British government to block FOIA requests behind the scenes illegally. We have the fraud of Al Gore trying to make everybody pay him a tax. I mean, isn't civil lawsuits a way to go?
I think it's definitely one way to go. I mean, frankly, given the fact that a lot of these institutions that have been caught rigging the data are funded with public tax money, I think a class action suit's appropriate here. I think we absolutely have a right to sue pretty much the entire institution of global warming for perpetrating a fraud using taxpayer funds. NOAA's been compromised. NWAI has been compromised down in New Zealand. Hadley's compromised in Great Britain. The whole structure is a gigantic hoax. I would hope there might be a legal remedy. Unfortunately, you have to remember that those judges in the courts are basically being paid by the same government that was hiring all these scientists to rig the climate change data.
And we now have the newest internal UN documents where they admit a covert operation to take over the universities, the scientists, to help them covertly set up world government and to brainwash children. I mean, this is sensational level information right now at prisonplanet.com.
It absolutely is, but you need to remember one more thing, and that is that the government has started invoking sovereign immunity for pretty much everything it does, which is this idea that we can't sue the government no matter what it does. Now, I've never seen sovereign immunity in the Constitution, but it has been used in a lot of federal cases recently involving vaccinations, involving various other malfeasances by the government, where they simply say, we own the courts, you can't sue us. And, of course, on that path lies the road to a real revolution.
Listen, Craig, just get involved with locals. Point out that Washington State now wants, along with California and Texas, to put a box in your car by law that taxes you by the mile on top of gas tax. That's now been proposed by Obama. I'd tell people about that 10 years ago because the Department of Transportation was proposing it. People laugh at me. The time for procrastination must end now.
Absolutely. This is the final battle.
This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Mike, always informative having you on from Hawaii. Thank you, and I look forward to having you back on with us next month.
I look forward to it again, Alex. Thanks for having me.
There goes Mike Rivero, WhatReallyHappened.com. I'm Alex Jones of Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Don't forget, you can get 5 months free right now at PrisonPlanet.tv. But I want to go ahead and go out to break with this clip where he gets into 9/11 Truth with Larry King live. He has a lot of courage, and we salute Jesse Ventura, who we've really woken up to a great extent. Here it is.
Just within the last decade, we won't be covering John F. Kennedy or Dr. Martin Luther King or any of the stuff back then. We kept it to the 10-year last decade, and believe me, the problem, Larry, wasn't finding conspiracies. It was choosing which ones we wanted to cover.
Oh. What is the 9/11 conspiracy?
Well, the 9/11 conspiracy is simply that the government hasn't been truthful with us. I mean, Larry, a couple weeks ago, the head of the 9/11 Commission Legal, I believe he's former Attorney General Farmer from New Jersey, came out publicly and stated unequivocally that at some point the government decided that American citizens would not hear the truth about 9/11. I find that very disturbing.
Which is?
I don't know.
What truth?
Well, we can't find it naturally because I don't have subpoena power. We don't have the ability to put people under oath and threaten them with prosecution.
What would they be hiding in that building?
I don't know.
What do you think? In your wildest imagination, what do you think?
Well, in my wildest imagination, I find it very difficult that those buildings could fall at the speed of gravity without being assisted in some way. And I used to do demolition for a living. And how could those buildings fall as fast as I used to free fall out of an airplane? I mean, if you took a billiard ball and dropped it the height of the Twin Towers and you just merely stopped it and started it every floor in free fall, it would take over 1.5 minutes to reach the ground. The buildings were down in 10 seconds.
So you think it might have been something inside?
I think that most definitely our government has not been honest with us. I think, and here's the big point I make on 9/11. Why is it off limits to talk about it? Why is it off limits to question and ask questions? You know, when I went through UDT SEAL training, I was taught in demolition, Larry, that there is no dumb question. That if you don't understand it, it's not dumb. And that's how I've lived my life. And I have a lot of questions that the government refuses to answer.
Is the 9/11 story the first show this Wednesday?
No, it's not. The first show will be HARP. And it's based upon a book that a scientist wrote, and it says angels don't play this harp. It's about an antenna grouping that we have up in Alaska that's supposedly an unclassified research center. But if it's unclassified, why wouldn't they let me in?
All right, that's going to be something. Well, Jesse Ventura's new show, Conspiracy
Larry, clearly they're not being honest, Larry, because if it was unclassified, I could get in.
I get you.
Okay.
The new show debuts Wednesday night on True TV. Ariana Huffington and Ben Stein will join the party, and they were invited.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now, that's courage. Jesse Ventura on national television talking about John Farmer and the 9/11 Commission created by the power elite.